So, bit of a replay analysis we got here for Voqics. Comments. I was focusing in this game on not interacting with the enemy team as much as I usually do, especially in lane. That was what we talked about in your earlier session. And because of that, I got an earlier battle fury than I usually do. I still died a lot in the mid game and didn't have the impact I wanted to in fights. I felt like I could take on either Lunar or Windrunner, yeah, but I couldn't deal with one without the other killing me. Generally, our session was very helpful, but I have a few questions. When should I be saving for buyback? During our coaching session, you told me not to worry about it. Okay, so quickly, when it comes to buyback, a lot of it has to do with how long are respawn timers and how much can people get done during that time. So the longer the game goes, people have longer respawn time, and they also have higher damage output, so they can kill more of your base. So on carry, very rarely will you ever buy back before like 4 items. Very rarely. So I think for now, you could automatically assume you're not saving for buyback with 3 items. And probably 4 items, because it's just kind of like the timing of how long the game is going, what level people are, and all that kind of stuff. And there's a big difference between like seeing an opportunity to buy back and purposely saving for buyback. I remember in your session, you were saving for buyback instead of buying an item, which is just like when you're delaying your items in order to get buyback, that's like a big no-no. When should I be looking to interact with the enemy? For example, when I have Omni Slash, it seems like I'd want to help my team hunt for kills. No. It means that while you're farming, you can be more aggressive, and it means that if something happens in the midst of your farming where you can TP to it, or it covers your farming pattern, or maybe you don't have to deviate much from your farming pattern, then you can kill people with Omni Slash. Big difference between hunting people and aggressively farming and killing people that perhaps get in your way. Those things should never really be at odds. One's prioritized and the other one is looking to connect. At what point in the game should I buy items that are good against my enemy instead of just generally good for my hero? I'd say the earliest a carry can buy a counter item is 4th. So like most carries have like, for Jugg, it's like Battle Fury Manta Butterfly, or Battle Fury Manta Scotty, or Battle Fury Manta Ags, or Battle Fury Manta Blink. Usually the 4th item is usually like the earliest a carry will buy items that are good against enemies. That's just a good rule of thumb. I mean, none of this stuff is like gospel or whatever, but yeah, let's jump into this game. So what it sounds like is that perhaps your early game got cleaned up a bit, but your mid to late game did not. Because we did talk a lot in our session about you interacting with people too much. It seems like you had a good amount of fundamentals when it came to like laning, but you stayed in your lane really long time. I remember you basically said that you were going to stay until Cornucopia, and you were like dying to a Slardar. So my biggest takeaway from this session is to see how you're doing in the first 10 minutes, and then we'll kind of like watch your mid-game decisions and hopefully give you some follow-up pointers to the questions you gave that I just read off here.
All is confusion.
You're doing very well. I'm very proud of you.
We can okay. 69 damage, nice. Yeah, good habit to get into against Wind Ranger is to stand to the side of the creep so you don't get power shotted. Small things. Okay. So this is a situation where I would have wanted you to defensively aggro like ASAP. Like I wanted you to defensively aggro right here. And this is because you're against double range. It's super important to pull the lane back when you're against double range. And it's not even pulling the lane to get it like in front of your tower. It's pulling the creeps back so double range can't just hit you like this. Hit. Look at how much you're getting hit. And then you spin the wave. That's a big no-no. This is all a big no-no. I'm not sure what... I don't remember seeing this sort of thing in your last session, but this one is purely solved by defensive aggro, and then you spun to like compensate it. I guess I don't like hate the adjustments. This is... Okay, this is like completely different than what I remember seeing. I actually have no idea... You're like playing for jungle at level 2. That's like not a thing. You're incorporating jungle too early. I think you took maybe not interacting with your opponents to the extreme. In the early levels, it's done by defensive aggroing. Yeah, okay. You took this, like, way too far. You're just, like, not laning. Okay, came back to lane. I mean, I like that you're taking it too far. Like, you're clearly doing something different. But yeah, in lane, generally for the first 5 minutes, unless it's like a disaster of a lane, which this one was not, you're just defensive aggroing. And that's how you minimize interaction. You're going to try to get the pull off, which is good. Even if you're... Yep, you got it. Nice. You're going to kill that to get the Batstone, I hope. Need you to auto-attack these creeps down. We would ideally see you check the lane during this to see where the creeps are. Nice, your defensive aggro hitting. This is what I wanted you to do earlier, so you know how to do it. But you didn't do it earlier. So this is the time where Actually, I don't hate what you're doing. I don't mind it, actually. Okay. So the reason why I was going to tell you I don't like what you're doing is because this whole idea of, like, denying 3 creeps right here, where you're, like, sitting in lane denying, the whole idea of not interacting with the opponents is around 5-6 minutes. If you stay in lane, you're just susceptible to exactly what just happened in the future. Like, this can just happen to you at any moment because mid laners have 6, enemies have kill potential on you the higher levels they go. So the whole idea of this is, like, sure, if you want to deny these creeps because the Wind Ranger power shotted them, fantastic. But, like, next wave, you're healing warding up before it, so you're full HP, and then you're going to defensive aggro and attack under tower. Like, you're not going to walk up and spin like this. You're going to defensive aggro and pull it under tower, or you're going to start by spinning the creep camp and coming back. So just at this point, we're working on execution of what you're learning. It seems like you've got a clear idea of, like, I'm going to spin the wave and leave. I think you took that a bit too far. Like, you're using that as a blanket solution to defensive aggro and attacking. Like, you're kind of brute forcing the no interaction by shoving out the wave and spinning it. Which in reality, I'd want you to, like, recognize, am I supposed to push the lane at all? Or am I supposed to jungle and then come back to lane? So, like, if I rewind to this time here... No, it was earlier, actually. It's right here. Where, like, you see this at 7 minutes. You're either defensive aggroing and pulling it back. Like, you need to recognize... I don't want to say you need to. Your sense of, I'm able to walk up to this and spin it is off. Like, you're just assuming you can do that. But it's not... I more so need you to realize that the problem here is that you're kind of, what I've seen so far, because you did it literally level 1 spin as well, that you're just walking up to waves and pushing them. So you clearly are like, okay, the way I minimize interaction is by spinning the wave, but you're doing it in a way that's just ignoring enemy heroes in the game, which you can't do. You have to factor them in this. So it makes sense that, like, step 1 of you applying this is you basically understanding how to do it, like, mechanically. But now you need to start functioning, like, factoring in the enemy heroes and what they do. That's going to be your next step. So I don't want it to come off as you doing something wrong, more so that, like, okay, this is the evolution you're in now. You're trying to minimize interaction, but the way you're going about it is lacking the understanding of matchups and stuff that we need to work on over time. Yeah, it's interesting that you said you're minimizing interaction, but you're fighting them. And I think you're trying to fight them because you have Omni Slash, but in reality, at any point, we could have just TP'd mid. Like, I think the play here was to TP mid at any point. So the biggest thing for anyone that's caught in this situation where there's a bunch of people in your lane as the safe laner, check mid. Just look mid, even if it's on your minimap to start. I would want you to TP here and push this out. This is the same as going for a creep wave, but you're not putting yourself in danger, and you're applying pressure, so maybe the Zeus has to go back mid, and then you can take a fight top without the Zeus there. But just like plowing your face into 3 heroes, like this is exactly what we don't want to do with our Omni Slash. That's why prioritizing farm first is going to pay off for you, because you see the farm, you're going to force reactions, and then get good fights. But right now, you're just taking the fight that's in front of you. So you do go for the TP mid. You're going to spin it out. Where are you going to go from here? Take the rune? Okay. You don't have Omni Slash, but you're just fucking going for it. Okay. That was kind of a cool play, to be honest. Okay, man. When you are grouped up as 3 and you're spending your time denying the catapult, I think you would benefit from post 5 minutes disallowing yourself from denying things. Like, there are times that it's correct, but for the short term, I think you can blanket statement assume you should not be denying creeps in lane, and you should not be denying catapults for sure. This catapult's your ticket to pushing this tower if you're going to push it. So now you're just, like, going to push without it now? Like, what are we doing? What is this? What are we doing here? Okay. Okay. You took a weird fight. I actually don't mind this haste rune engagement. I want you to pause right now and tell me how you're going to start farming again. What I mean by start farming again is get the fuck away from your team. There's 2 options. You're either hard pushing this tower, meaning you're shoving the lane and you're not denying the catapult. You're either hard pushing the tower right now with all these people, or you're getting back to farming. So we're pausing the game. Your options for farming. I think the most straightforward one is for you to walk over here, go through the twin gate, and go back top. That's the most obvious one that applies here. That's the one you would do here. But if that wasn't possible, then you'd probably go here or here. But this whole, like, here thing is, like, when we're talking about interacting with enemies, this is really bad. This is really bad. This whole sequence. It was 1040 when you got that kill. Like, how long does it take for you to, like, farm by yourself again? Right? Because this isn't farming. You're farming with your team, right? So, like, you're not actually being efficient. So, it was 1040 when you got the kill. 1040! You're still farming with your team right now. So, the first time you're going to hit a creep by yourself is a minute and a half later. So, when you went and took that cool engagement, which you included yourself in, even though you didn't have Omni Slash, you had a haste rune, the amount of time it takes you to go back to either pushing a tower or efficiently farming, that's deciding your MMR. So it took you a minute and a half, almost 2 minutes. So if we can get that down to like the 15, 20 seconds that it would take to walk through the portal and come back, that's the dream. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. Okay. Unfortunate death to Witch Doctor there. Look at your Battle Fury timing. You even wasted a minute and a half. So, like, your Battle Fury timing's earlier than it was before. So, that, like you said, it's a win. I mean, it looks like the game's ugly as shit. Meaning, like, your team's losing pretty bad. I would definitely take a second point in Healing Ward. Against that lineup, I need to be full HP. Like, at all times. I would also take second point Healing Ward in stats. Because I'm worried about getting bursted. I don't think points in crit are worth it here. Okay, you're gonna go. That was nice. You stacked the Ancients. Pretty efficient. What are we doing? We're skipping Ancients? Where are you going? Dude, you stacked the Ancients and you didn't farm them. Where are you going? Yeah, so these are the moments where, because you skipped the Ancients, you don't have any camps back here. If you had farmed the Ancients, then you would have camps back here because you'd have more time to farm them. And then you would have an option other than staying here. In this case, you're actually supposed to be like, oh, Wind Ranger threatens me because of single target damage, and I don't threaten her because Omni Slash doesn't do anything. So you need to let her have the lane. So what I was talking about earlier, these like lane matchups where it's like whoever walks up to the wave, what's the threat? And you were just brute forcing the spin. Now it's your job to now understand that if you're minimizing interaction with the opponent, then you need to play these matchups out in your head. Who threatens who? Do I threaten them at all? How strong am I to walk up here? What other things can kill me in the game? These are all the types of questions we can be asking ourselves. So like Zeus is a perfect example of a mid that we don't want to lane anymore when he's level 6 because we're just missing 200 health. So these interactions that you're having, like this one, just need to not happen in the first place. But that's like hero dependent, and it seems like you're brute forcing the matchups. And you came in with the questions about Omni Slash. I think you're valuing Omni Slash too highly. Omni Slash is just... yeah, it's like maybe I'll go casually Omni Slash somebody between farming. But you just need to drop your idea of impacting fights and understanding who do I match up well against? Can I push these lanes? Because once you're doing that properly, better fights will happen. That's like the way I'm trying to say it is you're not doing the part that creates the good fights. So then your fight gauging is going to be really hard to master because you're not getting accurate fights. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So you really need to like start gauging what happens when I walk up to this creep wave. What's the matchup? If there's a bunch of people in my lane, are there other places to go? If I show up to a fight, where are other places that I can go after the fight's over to go back to farming? Like, I need to resume farming. So these are, like, your big issues that you're running into. They still pertain to the interaction problem, but I can see the improvements that you have made. I can see that you're actively trying to interact less, but obviously it doesn't just get fixed in 2 weeks. So I'd say these questions I just asked you now are, like, the follow-up questions to where you're at in the interaction thing. You know, obviously this game's pretty rough. You're down by 10k at minute 21. So this is an example that you can't really afford because you have spin TP out. Your reaction here, when you see this fight happening and a Zeus bottom, your interaction here actually needs to be to walk like this. And either go portal up here, depending on where they go, or more likely you're going to go down here and farm. So when you have spin TP available, their only BKB piercing disable has been used. You need to be more evasive on the map, more away from your team, more away from where the opponent wants to go. So when you're losing really badly, this is kind of like odd, right? But when you're losing really badly, the opponent wants to play your side of the map. So the worse that you're losing, the more likely it is that you want to go to the other side of the map. If you're in an even game, then you're like controlling your half of the map and they're controlling theirs. So it makes sense that you'd predominantly farm your half of the map. But when you're losing this badly, you need to get more creative about staying on the map and being on the opponent's side of the map. So the most important part about avoiding interaction is not as much about like play my side of the map or whatever. It's more based on the circumstance, where does the enemy want to play? If I'm winning, I want to confront them at those spots. If I'm losing, I want to avoid those spots. And so that also goes for like farm matchups on the map where you're walking into the Wind Ranger. When she's farming somewhere, you want to be away from there, right? While you don't mind farming on the same half of the map as Luna, for instance. But now these are just, what do you do now, right? When you TP mid here, you get 2 kills, but now what? So fights like this, if you consider like the comparison of just being down here hitting creeps and maybe spin TPing, like let's just compare that to what you're doing now. You got 2 kills, you know, great. But now what? Yeah, you really need more than 1 point in Healing Ward, for sure. I think at least 2 points every game. I don't think Healing Ward's ever a 1-point wonder. Like, it's so good to go from 2 to 3%. The problem is now that you're, like, getting back out on the map, it's really hard to do this now. So you're going to do this, and now you have to play really scared because they're missing. What are they doing here? You're going to retreat back to your team? Yeah, once you do the TP that you did, it's, like, so hard to ever get out on the map again. I would probably walk top here because I saw Luna. So you just saw their carry bottom. I would go like this. Away from them because they're winning. Their carry who's farming is bottom, and you're... I know I said you match up well against Luna now, but now it's like 23 minutes into the game, and Luna is going to probably dictate where her team is. So if she's bottom half, her team is probably mid and bottom. Like, if you look at the map right now, nobody on their team is top. This area is, like, completely free. So now you're, like, kind of pigeonholing yourself over here. So, like, what if they ran at you as a team right now? Like, you're kind of screwed, right? They're not going to do that, so it doesn't punish you. Okay. I mean, at this stage of the game, things are just really awkward. Okay, this whole thing needs to be, instead of you retreating, because it's nighttime now, it's much easier to be, like, evasive on the map. You need to walk this way, summon Manta to take this creep wave, and farm this way. If they end up killing you with Warlock Golem, one time during the, like, 6 minutes that you've been doing this, you'll have netted far more gold than what you fed, okay? I guarantee you. So you're not being nearly creative enough, you're just retreating back to your side of the map. This especially applies to losing, but it would apply in any game that you're not really fighting them comfortably. You see Luna bottom, you need to work your way towards top. What you're doing, fantastic. I think that ancient stack's still the one you stacked at like 9 minutes. You're not using Manta illusions on creep waves. So, like, here before you TP, I would have loved for you, like, you kill this camp. Here. And then you do this. I would have loved for you to send Manta illusions here before TPing. You're not using your Manta nearly enough to cut waves. That's what the Manta's for. Unless they have, like, an Orchid, but I don't think they do. Yeah. I would not have gone Butterfly because I saw this. This guy literally rushed an MKB. Maybe you didn't notice it. Probably would have gone Scotty instead. Scotty against 2 ranged cores and a Zeus, so you have more HP. Yeah, you're just never cutting waves. Like, you have the opportunity here to, like, cut waves. I mean, I guess Wind Ranger scares you, perhaps? I mean, that kind of speaks to your items, I guess. You rushed a Butterfly against a Wind Ranger with MKB, and he is your primary threat. Okay, but we end up getting the tower. That's nice. I want you to notice how often the enemy team is in this area. You're here, and instead of going down here, you're going back towards the opponent. That is, if there's one takeaway I have for you from this entire replay for the mid game, is that you automatically, I see it, you do it 100% of the time. Your farming pattern is this wave, this camp, and then back to Ancients. You do this, into this, into this, regardless of game state. And that is not sufficient enough for, like, farming patterns. When you go here, or when you go to this wave, you can go here to here, to here to here. Even as Dire, you can do it like here to here, here to here. You can go here, 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 through the twin gate and up top. But you've done literally this exact same farming pattern every time in the game, and there's been 3 different game states, none of which this was the correct one. So that, for me, is that you have a very refined farming pattern, like that you feel like you've optimized, but the game is more dynamic than this, so we need you to adjust accordingly. I think the items, if this Butterfly was a Scotty and then going MKB to threaten the Wind Ranger, I think that would be the overall good item build. So that's my goal from you, takeaway wise, for this replay, and I feel happy about I think we've armed you with enough for improving. We don't want to overload you here.